Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rescripted Podcast, where we could celebrate the great things in life, share about the not so great parts, and find out how we can rewrite those challenges, turn them into insightful moments that will lead us to change, to growth, to happiness, and empowerment, all so that we can live the life we truly want to experience. Have you ever had a moment in life when life just really felt heavy? And not because a obvious obstacle that you were coming through or a challenge that you were faced with, but it was more of like something internal. There's a heaviness to life, and everything looked fine on the outside, right? Success was great, your career was going well, you have great relationships with friends and family, and everything appears great. So you have this odd feeling that you internally something feels off. Well, today that is exactly what we're going to be talking about. When life starts to feel heavy and the signal that indicates that you are out of alignment. And lately, you've been feeling like this internal discontentment, and it's starting to feel pressure. And that pressure just feels like weight that you're walking around with, and you're not sure what it is. Well, that is what I call internal constraint. And that is when your intuition is signaling to you that something is out of alignment. But it is so easy to think that that is indicating that there's some sort of failure. And a lot of people do translate that to be something related to failure because something feels dissatisfied, because something feels incomplete, because there's a void. You're feeling like something is incomplete. And although something is changing inside of you, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's totally a full description, or the best description to say is that something is incomplete. It's more like something is changing. Something is evolving, so change is needed. So it's like a shift taking place. And this is what I like to call your evolving season. This is where new development is taking place within you. And when new development starts to happen, it goes through the process of growth. And if you've ever seen anything grow before, you know that first it needs to shed the old to allow the new to flourish, right? So in your season, that's kind of what's happening. You're looking at some of the things that used to work, and now you're starting to feel like you have to remove some of those things in order for new elements of you to evolve, to flourish, to really get comfortable with them. And sometimes that could be really scary because we don't want to let go of some things, right? When we've worked so hard towards something, when we develop so much, the last thing you're thinking of doing is walking away from that or removing that. But when you start to feel it internally that there's a shift that's taking place and some change needs to happen, that's a great indicator that you are evolving, that you're going through your evolving season, because growth does take that. It does take that process. So there's nothing wrong with you, and it's proof that you're not failing. It's proof that you're growing. So it's something really important to take in, because it's very easy when something is disruptive, is very easy to think that something is not working, and that's not always the case. It's the most common explanation for things, but it's not always the case. Because when we start to do that, when we start to give the wrong description to what we're really going through, our perception of it is off, right? So we start to see it from a different lens, and things start to not make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, the easiest thing to do is to suppress something, to remove it, to take it out of sight, out of mind. And suppressing it actually makes it louder. Maybe not in the moment, maybe not in, the next few days, but you really start to feel the weight of it really starting to bear on you. And it makes the connection to it harder to distinguish, because it's the further you are from it, the more you have to come into alignment to really see what's going on. So it's great to catch it in the beginning if you can, because you're able to understand where it's coming from, where it's stemming from, and how it's really meant to be. But if you keep suppressing it, it's going to surface. It's going to surface through internal constraint, and it's your signals, the signals that you're out of alignment, and you're going to see that it's going to seep into other areas, because when you feel weight in life, it's hard to not have it seep into other things, whether it seeps into your mood, whether it seeps into how you're moving, the actions that you take, the progress measures that you do, because now they have a different tone to them. What you used to like, what you used to enjoy, what you used to find to be progressive work, now you're starting to feel like it's not giving that same segue. You get what I mean? It's not giving you that same leverage that it used to, because you're understanding that this component that is missing is making the things that you used to enjoy not as enjoyable, because in the back of your mind you have that weight and you don't know what it is. And when you're able to tap into what's really going on, you get to see that life isn't falling apart. It's actually falling into place. Because think about it, when you are doing your calling, when you are acting in your calling, when you're moving forward in what you're supposed to be stewarding, how can that fall apart? It can only evolve. It can only get, those layers can only compound one on top of another, right? Because you're able to get progress. So if what you're doing is kind of making you feel friction, then it's letting you know that there's areas and components that really need to start shifting and evolving and maturing, and that's what it's going to lead you to. So your life can't really fall apart when you're in your calling. What it is falling into place. Although it can feel like it's falling apart, we've all been there. And it's the easiest description to give it, because it's the one that feels most accurate, because what we're going through is a struggle, is a pain. It's something that feels n- unnatural, because you're so used to succeeding, and now it feels like you're not. It definitely feels like your world is crumbling. But like I said, in a growth process, the removal part is vital in order to grow and propel forward. So just remember that sometimes in your hardest season, it's not always that your life is falling apart, but you're shedding some things. And that's why the work that I do with internal constraint is very vital, because it lets you know that your past decisions aren't wrong. It's not like what you were doing, you wasted your whole life and you have to start over. No, not necessarily. Shifts for sure. Shifts, absolutely. But to say you're doing like a complete overhaul, no, it's not necessary, because when you're in your calling, you're building muscles, you're building skills. You get what I mean? You may not understand what you're doing at the time. So I kind of go back to the Karate Kid movie, like Mr. Miyagi. When he was instructing him, he had no idea what his training was really prepping him for. He thought it was a nuisance at the time for what he was trying to achieve. And little did he know that it would come into play at the perfect time, because at that point it was already muscle memory, because he did it so long. So all the things that you've done has really built you to have that muscle memory, and you may not know exactly where you're going to use it for the future, but it is important, because if it wasn't, then God wouldn't have allowed you to utilize it in your life and become a master and be so good at it for so long. So it's not always that you have to start over, but it's absolutely shifts that take place. And to realize that what's really happening is that you're evolving, is that you realize you have to let some things go. No matter what, you feel like the longer you hold on, the tighter you hold on, the less things work. So you get to a point where you're just like, I literally have to let go and let God, right? Another thing that's also going to help you understand that you are in your evolving season is that your priorities start to change, and it makes sense. And now when you start to see it from that perspective, you get to realize, yeah, if my priorities shift, then the algorithm of what I do, my sustainability, of course, it's going to change, because the priority has changed. So then it starts to make sense, and now you don't feel like you're drowning in your own life anymore. You start to realize, okay, something's happening, and let me just take a minute to sit down and really listen to my intuition to see what in fact is happening, so that I know precisely what it is that I have to let go of, what exactly it is that I have to remove, and what shift can I really honor. Because like I said, there's a lot of things that are going to distract you. And the first thing is to think that everything is falling apart when it's actually falling into place. And what precisely is falling into place? Your stewardship, your calling. There's something special on your life that only you can do, specifically the way you do it, the way you're built to do it, the way that your brain actually processes things to allow you to get results. You are special, you know it, you've always felt it. And this is what life is setting you up for, what you're called to steward. But I want to be 100% honest, and I want to give you the disclaimer. Your evolution phase does not happen all at once. It happens in stages, and that is absolutely for your benefit. I know all of us want everything to happen in an instant. We like instantaneous, right? But at the end of the day, that is not what you really want. That is not beneficial to you, because if you were to get everything all at once, you will be overwhelmed. And in fact, if instead of it feeling like a blessing, it's actually going to feel like a burden, because you're not able to see the changes that are taking place, the necessary changes that are taking place. Why? How is it benefiting you? How is it benefiting the overall calling, the duty, your stewardship? How is it really feeding in such a great way and such a blessing that then it could turn in being sustainable? Because when you're in your calling, you're working, right? um but you're not called to be like burned out. You know what I'm saying? So there's a system, there's an order, there's a strategy to how everything goes, because there's a natural flow. So understanding what the shifts in you are taking place and what they're meant for, understanding how it's going to be beneficial. It takes time to really dissect that and listen to your intuition and really see the changes that are happening, the progress that's taking place of what you've already evolved into. So those things happen in phases. And evolving is forever. Evolving is forever. And that's why I say it's seasons, because it's not a one-time thing. It's not like you go through it twice in life. It's however you're moving in your calling is going to call for a new shift, a new season. And sometimes it's so easy to get advice from other people, but you have to remember, another person's advice can only go as far as they have gone. But if you hunger for more, if you hunger for different, you have to realize then that wonderful advice that was given to you will be limited if it's calling you to do something different. If your stewardship is called to do something different, then yes, you could take it as advice and see if it's applicable to you. It may not be, and that's okay. It doesn't make it bad advice, but you just have to realize some things are meant to be guidance and some things are just meant to be conversational. Sometimes things are just meant to be part of someone else's story. Doesn't necessarily mean that yours is going to fall in the same category as theirs. So that's why it's really, really important for you to be careful when we take advice, because it's not like I said, it advice could be universal, but yours needs to be personal, because you have a distinct calling, you have a distinct call, and you have a specific thing that you're called to do. And if you are made precisely for this calling, then you have to realize the best advice is already within you. You're not always going to find it outside of you. And that's kind of what that alchemy journey is you seek the world for these answers, for all the answers. And really what you end up finding is you always had them within you. You just never stopped to care to listen. You always thought wiser people had more. Like I used to love, the elderly, because I thought they had such wonderful stories, and they did, and they had so much more life experience than me, and they did. But their life experience was different from mine. So although I can enjoy it as advice, I can enjoy it as stories, I really couldn't apply them all to my life, because then it would take me off of track of what I was trying to accomplish and do and what was necessary for my life and for my calling. Because a lot of times, honestly, a lot of people can give you great advice on status, how to live a successful life, how to uh, have like a certain level of success, what type of social proof can really give you leeway to have different collabs that are going to give you like different achievements. So you see, it's like all of this external work, right? But if you're just getting advice, that's always going to be external. And you can tell if you're not taking your own advice, if you're not listening to your own intuition, well, that's where the void is going to come in. And sometimes you can have great opportunities, you can have wonderful opportunities, but if they're not aligned with you, it's really going to be a waste of your time. So sometimes things are better to be appreciated than to be chased. Not every opportunity is really meant to feed into your calling. Not every opportunity needs to be sought after. You need to really align with what makes sense with you and what your purpose is and what you're meant to steward, because then it's going to take so much off of your plate so that you don't have to be overwhelmed, but you can be impactful. And that's really, truly where you want to be. You want to be impactful. That's the kind of success you really want. And what type of impact do you really want? Well, all of that is going to be uncovered when you listen to your calling, when you go through your evolution phases and you're able to be diligent and you really be obedient to everything that you're called to do. No matter how uncomfortable it feels, just know that it has the right steps and the right process, because all of that process, as long as you're able to look at it, it's going to give you feedback, right? It's going to give you an understanding of what you're going through. Understanding gives you clarity, and clarity allows you to know where you're moving. And that's the symphony of your life, right? That's what makes it so easy. That's what makes it easy to be decisive with certain things, before you would take any opportunity you could, because great opportunities come and go. But then you start to realize, well, a really good opportunity is one that really feeds into my stewardship, because then it all funnels under the same thing, versus having your hands in many different pots, and sometimes that can be overwhelming, and it's so easy for things to fall through the cracks. I mean, it really, really is. And then that has another level of stress that sometimes you're just like, I wish I would have known better, right? But your internal intuition is letting you know, and it lets you know. A lot of people call it their gut, their gut feeling, but it's your intuition letting you know. So it's clarity that you're really after, because clarity gives you understanding. Understanding, it lets you know what is worth moving forward with and what isn't. And sometimes you can agree that it's challenging. You can agree that it's uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, you understand the process, so you understand it's worth it. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Is this going to be worth it in the process that I'm going through? Is this feeding my calling better? And you're going to see that it is. In the shorthand, probably not, because you're feeling with the discomfort. But in the long run, like I said, the whole Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi thing, it benefited him in the long run, and the same will happen to you. So if you feel that you have been struggling carrying this internal weight, that you're just like, I need to get rid of this because it is too distracting and I want to get back to enjoying my life, then I invite you to book a call with me so we can go over the next steps, so that we can go ahead and move through what is benefiting you and what needs to be outgrown, what you need to release, what you need to shed off, so that you could really start flourishing the way that you want to. Or if you're unsure of where this internal constraint is lying, I definitely have my internal constraint quiz, which is complimentary. You could try it. It's the link down below, and it'll give you a more clear understanding of where your internal constraint lies and what is impacting it. Because in today's day, you want to enjoy life, right? You don't want to spend time stressed or worried or doubting if you don't need to, right? Why do it if you don't need to? So if we're able to clear out some of that noise, then that is beautiful. That is progress. And I am willing to walk through this journey with you through my coaching program. It is 8 weeks long, and we go through the framework of being able to detect, dissect, and then redirect. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you enjoyed this episode and feel like it was insightful, then I ask you to please rate it, like it, and subscribe, and share it with someone you feel will enjoy it. I'll be back here next week, and we will continue to discuss matters regarding personal development. Take care, guys. Have a blessed week, and I'll see you next time.